Hello everybody, I'm Dr. Michelle Nicopolis. I'm a faculty member here at Cuyahoga Community College Western Campus, yay, and I teach psychology. And I was a counselor here for 12 years at Western Campus and then made a career transition. So my career story, this is kind of fun because I'm like reliving my timeline right now, so thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for listening, I'm sure you are. I'm sure your phones are all the way. Okay, when I started, I thought, let's see. My mom actually knew I was going to be a counselor way before I did. She said in kindergarten when she dropped me off, she was crying. She had her sunglasses on. I can use props since my sunglasses are right here. So she had these big 1970s shades on, and said she was just crying like crazy. She's like, "Oh, I can't leave you, my only child. You know, you're going to kindergarten." And she said before she knew it, I was over helping a kid who was crying. And I was talking with them and I was playing with them on the teeter-totter and I was like consoling this child, and my mom was like, "I need consoling." So it turned out that apparently from a young age I was pretty cool with the interpersonal intelligence thing, I guess. Like I picked up on other people's feelings and emotions and tried to help. That kept going on throughout life. Even with my parents, since I was an only child, I'd kind of help them through things, which is interesting looking back. But I was always involved in peer counseling groups, taught younger kids. Like when I was in high school, I got involved in groups to help with things like drug and alcohol education and listening to them and having them tell their stories and things like that. So a lot of peer education throughout the way. So, throughout all that though, I didn't have a clue that's what I wanted to do. My parents had never graduated from college, so I was first generation. My uncle, mom's brother, was a high school math teacher, and I used to love helping him grade all of his tests and things. I thought that was fun because he had a really cool pen with like the red, the blue, the green, the black type of situation. So I thought the pens were cool, and I thought, grading was cool, and now I don't know about it so much, but back then it sounded fun. But beyond all that, beyond the enjoying teaching, enjoying helping others thing, I wanted to be an eye doctor, optometrist. That was my thing. And I thought, well, it's the only doctor you go to that doesn't hurt, and it's fun, so I always enjoyed it. I always had good vision. So then I got to college. I chose to go to Hiram College, which was about 20 minutes down the road. Being an only child, being kind of homebody, being kind of farm town kid, I enjoyed being out in the woods, kind of a quiet, small setting where the class sizes were really tiny. In fact, very tiny. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I went there and I started to take some courses toward psychobiology, which I thought that sounded cool because I liked biology, I liked psychology. And when I decided all this math and chemistry and things and physics that would be involved in optometry, I'm like, oh no. I didn't have a clue about what actually went into it. I just thought you learned how to do the fun eye tests, and that was that. So I decided very quickly that was not for me. So psychobiology. Took my first psychology class, and in the very back of the book, could not stand Psych 1010, by the way, the intro. Well, that's why I teach it now, because I try to make it fun. But my professor said, like we did the little hash marks, and I found that actually in my textbook not long ago, because that's the only book I ever saved. But multiple times throughout a class, and then talked about watching birds and all these things that had nothing to do with psychology. But got through the book, read a very little tiny paragraph in the end of the book, and it was about different careers in psychology. And I saw sports psychology, and always being a student athlete and very active and all that, I thought, maybe this is something worth exploring a little more. So I kept taking psychology classes. At that point, a friend and I said, you know what, we like the psychobiology thing, but we don't want to be taking the biology, like botany, zoology, which I had done already. Invertebrate biology was coming, genetics, and I like that stuff, but I want to deal with humans more and sports psych. So my friend and I actually had to petition the deans, the division, the whole department, the whole college basically went up to propose a new major in sports psychology. So it was exercise science with an emphasis in sports psychology. So we did that in addition to a psychology major, and I actually sidebar threw in communication, which was a minor, but why not add a few extra classes and get a third degree? Anyway, friend and I, when I go back to that very small class thing, we had classes together. So Paco and I and Dr. Herndon. So Mert, as we called her. So 3 of us were in classes for 3 years together. throughout this major. So, you know, talking about you think you should skip class, no, there's none of that because there are 3 of you. Not that I did. But it was a very tiny, remember when I said I liked the tiny feel of a classroom? 3 people was super tiny. But it really helped prepare us both. Paco actually took his degree and is now coaching volleyball at the Naval Academy. Has a really successful career using sports psychology, applying it that way. I ended up going on to a master's degree at Ball State in social and counseling psychology because they told me that I could actually emphasize in sports psych through their human performance lab. So I did that. Loved the idea of being able to put all of my interests together, which I was told I couldn't do. So in the undergraduate program, they're like, you know, you have too many interests, you need to narrow this down. And I'm like, great, challenge me with that and I'll find a way to make it all happen. So when I applied to Ball State, they're like, oh, absolutely, you know, you can do this social psych and counseling psych, and you can do your internships and you can work with student athletes here. So that's what I did. And that really got me interested in continuing the counseling route. I don't even, you know, it was counseling I enjoyed just because it was natural to me. And when I took an undergrad class in counseling theories and techniques, I really enjoyed it. So that's why I pursued that with the sport and exercise psych at the master's degree. So fast forwarding, I ended up finishing that program, did my internship in the athletic department, worked with some injured student athletes who were kind of dealing with depression and loss of identity and like, what can I do now? You know, I've always been known as this athletic person and now I can't do it. And then I worked individually doing, obviously supervised at that level, but working individually with student athletes with teams and would just do things like goal setting and communication and team building types of things with the teams. So I went ahead, got my licensure after that as a licensed professional counselor in Ohio when I moved back to Ohio. Started a doctoral program because I really wanted to teach as well as counsel, and because I enjoyed those team building types of things. I enjoyed working with teams and groups. So I thought, well, how am I gonna teach? And typically within psychology, you need the doctorate to teach. So I went to Cleveland State. I actually went to Akron first. Forgot about that. Just like a timeline of my life. Went to Akron for a year because I had a fellowship, so it was free, which was awesome. Sign a paper and boom, it's free. What I didn't realize at the time, and I wasn't really told about it, I was working full-time at Baldwin-Wallace College at the time, and I was told that, you know, this would be very flexible at Akron to do your doctorate. Turned out when I had to do the internship, it was through the day and I would have had to miss a day of work. I couldn't just tell BW, like, hey, you know, I'm going to be not here on Mondays anymore. So I ended up transferring over to Cleveland State, where I did my doctorate in urban education and counseling and met all the requirements for a psychologist licensure degree. So that's where I ended up, got my license as a psychologist, and I have my license as a professional clinical counselor. Trying to think, I'm sure I left out. Okay, so like this is interesting, telling your life story and your career. Hope you're still interested. I'm ready to yawn, just kidding. When I moved back to Ohio, actually, I wanted to work in a college setting because I'd always been in a college setting at that point with undergrad and graduate programs, and really enjoyed working with students at the college level. But I did not get a job right away, so I worked as an exercise trainer. Like, I got my licensure also to do group exercise and fitness, and worked at a hospital nearby doing creating exercise programs for people, which I really enjoyed and kept me active, and it really engaged the communication piece, the motivation, the psychology, the sports psychology, and the wellness components. So I enjoyed that. Ended up getting a job at Baldwin-Wallace, and there I worked in student life, which eventually went into my internship for my licensure in counseling at the counseling center, and then ended up directing student athlete services. So it was a great way to kind of pull together everything that I enjoyed. Then it was all these hats were on. I was teaching psychology, I taught some sociology, taught the first year experience type of class, College 101 at Baldwin-Wallace, was counseling, and was directing student athlete services. So that was pretty much my day. Oh, and then at night I went to class at Cleveland State to finish my doctorate. So it was like all day long was just going from 8 a.m. until 10 o'clock, and then I'd go home and have to do homework. And that lasted till wee hours in the morning. So I was getting little bits of sleep, and then I thought, oof, this is a lot. Found out about a position here at Tri-C doing counseling, where it's a faculty position. So as a counselor here, you teach, you do counseling, you're involved in all these other things that are on campus, whatever you choose to be involved in. So I applied for it and actually got the position in 2006, and I've been here ever since. Once I got into counseling, I enjoyed it. I help out with a lot of personal counseling, with crisis situations, and I'd get to teach. So I would teach this very class, the Gen 1040, and it was one of my favorite things to teach. I also taught psychology on the side. Whenever they needed someone to fill in, I would pick up a class for the semester, and general psychology and normal psychology. And I really enjoyed the teaching part. I do like the balance, but the decision making for me was at that point in my life when I was doing the work here, had some private practice work on the side. It was just getting to be too much on the personal end of counseling. So the nice part about having that extra education, I guess, is that I had the flexibility then to decide, is this a time for me to do more teaching, more counseling, split both? And I decided I still have the energy, the enthusiasm to teach, to be up in front of the group. Although, Myers-Briggs, Jung, we find out we get to be a little more introverted as we hit the 40s and don't get that energy as much from being with the group, maybe, as much as we once did. So I'm settling back in, but I have that flexibility. Right now I love teaching. I know that at some point I'll probably go back to the counseling world. Just the nice part is to know that I have the flexibility to do that and to be able to kind of morph, and put on whichever hat I need to put on. But for now, I enjoy teaching about psychology, teaching about mental health, wellness, diagnoses, treatment, those types of things. And I'm content more than content. I'm very happy, it's like very fulfilling what I do, and it's very refueling. There are times when I'm drained and I think, did I make the right decision? Should I do more counseling? Should I have more of a split? But again, that's the cool thing, is when you know that you feel out of balance, then there's that ability to search for new things and to go into new directions. So glad I got to share the story. I hope you enjoyed and got something out of it. If you want to pursue any career in counseling, teaching, psychology, helping profession types of things, I'm always here to talk, and wish you the best in your career journey.